It's all comedy in theory. We can laugh at what we need. It's all comedy in theory. We can laugh at what we want.
Welcome to It's All Comedy, in theory, a historic and hilarious look at what and who makes us laugh. I'm your host, Charlie Spink. In today's video, we look at the earliest recorded jokes and how humor has evolved over the centuries. These jokes are the setup to the punchline that is modern comedy. It's never too soon to take a look back. One can't help but wonder if the inherent hilarity of a person slipping on a banana peel harkens back to our roots as primates who are still evolving. The first time that a Homo sapien, or at least a bi-curious sapien, slipped and fell on their hairy ass, it was hilarious and historic. When we think of early humor, court jesters come to mind, or traveling troupes of entertainers. In fact, humor historians have often noted that the Commedia dell'arte, or the Commedia del Farte, was a group of smelly performers, known for their lack of general hygiene, who used to hike all through the hills of Europe, telling jokes to folks in characters and archetypes that were common and relatable. Each hill-roaming group of humorists had a catchy and topical name. I know that if I had an improv troupe in the 1500s, I'd want to name my troupe, Whose Plague Is It Anyways? Those guys would kill most everybody in the village. According to the website oldest.org, which is not a porn site for the elderly, the world's oldest recorded joke was traced back to 1900 BC. BC, of course, stands for Before Chappelle. Dateline, 1900 BC. The place? Somewhere in Mesopotamia, or a hot Mesopotamia during the summer. Here's the joke. Something which has never occurred since time immemorial. A young woman did not fart in her husband's lap. You might expect that the world's oldest joke was some wise observation or clever wordplay. Nope, it was farts. Big, stinky, matrimonial farts. In our last video, we asked, is anything universally funny? Well, it may just be that and only that. Farts. Next joke. Place of origin, Greece. The year was the 4th or 5th century AD. This joke is one that's sure to resonate with introverts everywhere. Even back then, many people valued silence in their alone time. Asked by the court barber how he wanted his hair cut, the king replied, in silence. Well, thank you. Well, thank you very much. What was the Latin phrase for shut the fuck up? Apparently, that joke was. And it was the very first joke ever told about going to the barber, which is probably why it cuts so deep, huh? The first cut is the deepest. Place of origin, ancient Rome. The year, 63 years before the birth of our Lord. This joke was credited to Emperor Augustus. Now, calendar makers know Augustus was the namesake for a very famous month. This was considered the very first Yo Mama joke. Augustus was touring his empire and noted a man in the crowd who bore a striking resemblance to himself. Intrigued, he asked, was your mother at one time in service at the palace? To which the man responded, no, your highness, but my father was. Ayo! Place of origin, ancient Egypt. The year, 1600 BC. The ancient Egyptians loved poking fun at their royals. As in this joke about King Snowfru. How do you entertain aboard Pharaoh? Simple. You sail a boatload of young women, dressed in only fishing nets down the Nile, and urge the Pharaoh to go catch a fish. Natasha Collier brings an updated version of this joke.
Dating is a lot like fishing. You gotta reel them in slowly. And I tried that, and it turns out that is a terrible fishing strategy. Like, reel him in slowly, he's gonna get away. Like, everyone knows what you gotta do. If you know how to fish, you gotta yank him out of the water as quickly as possible before he realizes that was a trap. That's when you can pull him out, lay him on the table, right? And if you're like, oh, no, this one's got cargo shorts, that's when you toss him back in the water and try again, you know? I'm more of a catch and release dater, if you will. I met my boyfriend on Tinder, is what I'm trying to say here. I caught myself a real big fish with a respectable amount of pockets on his leg wear.
Place of origin, Egypt. Not quite as ancient, but still Egypt. The year, sometime between 304 BC and 30 BC. I guess timing's important in comedy, but not in dating this joke. As it turns out, jokes of a sexual nature are far from being a modern invention. This amusing statement suggests that prostitution as a business has been around since ancient times. Man is more eager to copulate than a donkey. His purse is what restrains him. This joke was actually found on a 28-page-long papyrus, known as the Instruction of Ankh, which can now be found in a British museum. Now, I didn't know that the Brits had a museum dedicated to prostitution, but I assume that it's on a street corner, and it costs £10 to look at it, and £20 if you want to come inside. Moving on, place of origin, ancient Greece, the year 800 BC. This was found in the elite and renowned poetry of the Odyssey by Homer, and this is a personal favorite of mine. This line will remind you a bit of modern-day dad jokes, of which I am the illegitimate father of many. The story begins with Odysseus, traveling to the Cyclopean Islands, where he and his men are attacked. Odysseus devises a plan to outsmart the Cyclops. Odysseus tells the Cyclops that his real name is Nobody. When Odysseus instructs his men to attack the Cyclops shouts, "Help! Nobody is attacking me!" And nobody comes to help. So when Odie and his men talk about beating the one-eyed monster, they mean it in a very different way than today's teenagers would imagine. Place of origin, ancient Egypt, the year 1100 BC. A woman who was blind in one eye has been married to a man for 20 years. When he found another woman, he said to her, "I shall divorce you because you are blind in one eye." And she answered him, "Have you just discovered that after 20 years of marriage?" I should be able to do that one without laughing. They say that love is blind and probably deaf too, particularly when it comes to husbands. Were you saying something, honey? Wait, what? I didn't hear that. Husbands don't pay attention? Bay Area comedian and author Nina G weighs in on this very topic.
As if a middle-aged husband needs noise cancellation earbuds.
We're gonna jump across the pond. The oldest British joke dates back to the 10th century and reveals the bawdy face of the Anglo-Saxons. What hangs at a man's thigh and wants to poke that hole that it's often poked before? The answer? His key. It's a misdirection's misdirection, sort of a "why did the chicken cross the road?" but with a clearly implied dick joke right in the middle. And speaking of sex and love, both of which usually end in marriage, here's one from America's past, from the Farmer's Almanac, founded in 1792. A couple finds themselves in front of a magistrate after a marital spat. The judge says, "Now, sir, please tell the court all that passed between you and your wife during this quarrel." Mr. Jones replied, "Your Honor, I can't remember everything, but I'm sure there was a rolling pin, 3 plates, and an iron." Dateline Greece, 4th or 5th century AD. The first joke book ever compiled was called Flagellus, which translates to laughter lover, or, as the groupies outside the Comedy Cellar call themselves, chuckle fuckers. Perhaps in addition to farts, sex and relationships seem to also have universal appeal. Sitcoms, movies, and stand-up comedy seem to almost always be dedicated to these themes. It's true, there's absolutely nothing more relatable than having relations. Love and sex are the two main things that drive us as humans. Unless, of course, you're a wealthy comedian. Then your assistant or chauffeur is what drives you. And if you're that rich, they're probably gonna have sex with you anyways. Young comedians, work hard and get yourself a sexy chauffeur. In a physical reproductive sense, sex is what we need to keep going as a species. But comedy is the foreplay that keeps us interested in life between these intimate sessions. Without sex and love, we can't go on. But without comedy, why would we even want to? Thank you for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to get more It's All Comedy in Theory. I'm Charlie Spink and you're very welcome.
Man, I was only joking. I was just kidding. It's all jokes. It's all good. Comedy, baby. Ha!